Hi, it's the Irish Gypsy here to give you your February 2016 mid-month reading. I am using the Gilded Tarot deck, drawing 8 cards for the month, 2 cards for each week with an additional card as your overall theme and general feeling of the month. As I always say, these are general readings, so if they don't apply or resonate the same with everyone who watches, please check your rising and your moon sign as well. Special thank you, as I always do, to those of you who continue to reach out for personal readings. It's such a great honor and pleasure to be able to do those for you. Thank you so much for reaching out to me for those. And a continued thank you to those of you who watch and listen and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Your support and your feedback is so lovely and so positive. I thank you so much for that. It's greatly appreciated. And for those of you who aren't interested in personal readings, you can click on the About button on my channel's homepage, and that will give you a little more detail and information about myself, the services I offer, and my contact information. And you can also email me at maggie1mcguire@gmail.com. In honor of Valentine's Day, I am running a few different love specials this month. Specials on love readings, so if you're interested in those, please email me. I am doing this full time now. I am doing readings full time, so I can usually schedule you within 24 to 48 hours. So let's get right into this reading. This is for Sagittarius for February 2016 mid-month. What does the remainder of the month hold for the Sagittarians? My fun-loving Sagittarians. February 2016 mid-month. Okay. So Sagittarius, we begin with the Six of Cups, followed by the Seven of Swords, the Ace of Swords, followed by the Eight of Wands, the Page of Cups, followed by the Five of Wands, and the Eight of Swords reversed, followed by the Chariot card. And as the card for your crowning card, your umbrella card, as I like to call it, the card that represents the general theme and overall feeling of the month, we have the Six of Swords. Sailing from turbulent waters into more smooth and peaceful times, which is always a good thing. So let's take a look at this. I'm seeing Sagittarius, a very strong connection and theme to Aries reading, which I just finished. So it looks like there might be some common energies between you two fire signs this month. Leo didn't have anything like this, but Aries had one that was somewhat similar. So let's begin. We start with the Six of Cups, followed by the Seven of Swords. So the Six of Cups, excuse me. Cups, the element is that of water, and cups is a suit that points towards our emotions, our emotional atmosphere and landscape, both inner and outer. It's a suit that can also point towards love, relationships, how we relate to the people around us, our interpersonal relationships, but basically it's a suit that represents our emotions. And the Six of Cups is a card that speaks of reminiscence and nostalgia, of looking back towards a time when either a looking back or a actual return to times when you felt things were more free, more clear, more innocent, more naive, towards a time when perhaps you didn't have the cares and concerns and burdens that you presently have. This card can also speak of family, of returning to your roots. For some of you, as your crowning card was the Six of Swords, which is a card of leaving, and it can also be a card that represents travel. For some of you, this may mean traveling back to visit family, or traveling back to a place of your roots, or a place where you felt, you grew up in a place where you felt your foundational beginnings reside in. For others of you, this is just going to represent a desire and a looking backwards at a time where that just felt easier, lighter, more carefree. You can see in this picture there is two young children, a boy and a girl, playing together. It's just a very innocent, simple depiction. It's a beautiful day. They're playing in a park with flowers and grass and kitty cats and a frog. And it just speaks of innocence and innocence time and a naivety about things too. And it can represent a certain naivety about a certain situation or a certain person. It's a sweet card to have, but I've also felt with this card there's almost a little bittersweetness to it, a sense of poignancy about it. And this card is accompanied by, excuse me, I've been doing readings all day and my voice sometimes gets hoarse. The Six of Cups is accompanied by the Seven of Swords. Swords, the element is that of air, and swords is a suit that points towards our thoughts, our ways of thinking, our perspective, our ideas, our reasoning, our logic. It's a very mental and cerebral suit. And the Seven of Swords is, and I've heard it referred to this way too, as the thief card, which isn't necessarily a negative thing. The thief always gets kind of cast in a bad light, and it's not always a negative card. We always sometimes have to think outside the grid, or sometimes be a little sneaky or clever in how we maneuver things or negotiate with people. Sometimes we all kind of go around and do things that we wouldn't necessarily do in the open in order to find something out or to accomplish something. So it's not, the thief character is not always necessarily such a negative thing. This card can represent someone actually taking something from you, or feeling like something's being taken from you or passed off as theirs when it actually belongs to you. You can see, as depicted on this card, this man, the implication is that he has broken into someone's home and he has taken a bunch of their swords. Not everything, but a lot. And he's making off with it, and he's looking back over his shoulder with kind of a sneaky, smarmy, look what I'm getting away with kind of look. And this card can also point towards needing to be clever or think outside the box in how to deal with a situation or a person. Now, this combination of cards, the Six of Cups and the Seven of Swords, I feel like there is, again, and this is kind of similar to the reading that Aries got, for some of you this is going to represent a person in your life, a person or a situation in your life where it feels like you're being taken from, you're either being taken from or taken advantage of, or a combination of both, in a way that leaves you feeling taken advantage of and kind of depleted. And it's a situation I feel, again, like Aries, has been going on for some time. And the Six of Cups can represent just, with this combination of cards, can represent just feeling of fatigued and kind of tired and frustrated and almost depressed about a certain situation, and just looking back, longing for a time when things weren't the way they are, when you didn't have the burdens and cares and concerns that you have now. This can also, for some of you, represent a person in your sphere, or a situation in your sphere. It could represent a job situation too, but I'm not really, I picked up some of that for Aries, but I'm not really picking that up for you, Sagittarius, so this may not resonate for you that way. But this can also represent a person or situation in your life where that is actually depleting you in ways you're not entirely cognizant or recognizing, or not wanting to acknowledge. And it can represent a certain naivety about the person that is taken from you, that they're actually taking advantage of you, if not stealing something actual physical or stealing something tangible. They're just taking from you and draining you, taking advantage of you in some way, but you persist in a mindset that's rather naive about it because you don't want to acknowledge the truth of it. So it's going to resonate differently for different Sagittarians depending on, what your life situation is. And of course, you all have different energies. We all have different energies in our natal charts, so it's going to vary per person. Yeah, I think for some of you, I think for the larger portion of you, Sagittarius, in the remainder of February 2016, and somewhere around the middle of the month, it looks like I am feeling that this is a kind of a compliant blindness, a willing blindness, a willing ignorance, if you will. Ignorance simply meaning uninformed. about a certain person or situation in your life. I think for most of you, it's going to represent, for whom this resonates, it's going to represent as an actual person. For a smaller portion of you, it's going to represent a situation. It could be a job or just something, a cause or something that you're involved in that's just, you're being taken advantage of in some way. You're being depleted in some way on a continuous basis. Because again, I have the feeling that this person, this relationship, this situation has been going on for some time, and there's just something about it. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to admit it. You have again, kind of a willing blindness and naivety about it. You're not really seeing it for what it really is. And for others of you, this is something you are going to be aware of, but something, again, that you feel kind of trapped in, and it just makes you look back towards a time when this relationship was different, this situation was different, and didn't have kind of all the burdens and concerns and anxieties that it seems to have around it now. Now, that is followed, however, by the Ace of Swords, very powerful card, accompanied by the Eight of Wands. So the Ace of Swords, again, that suit of our thoughts, our ideas, our logic, how we look at things, our perspectives. The Ace of Swords, Ace is representing new beginnings, the promise of things to come, the potential of things to come, the seeds of things, the beginning of something happening. The Ace of Swords is a very powerful, I think it's one of the swiftest and most powerful of all the aces. Swords also being one of the universal symbols of truth. And the Ace of Swords comes in very swiftly and very profoundly. It's a very powerful card. It comes in and it cuts away all the extraneous stuff. It cuts away all the blindness, all the things that are covering up something, and casts something into a bright, illuminated, almost painfully clear light. And I think for some of you who are refusing to see the truth of a situation where you're being taken advantage of or being exploited or just drained in some way, the Ace of Swords, something's going to occur around the middle of this month, maybe even around the third week or so, that's going to completely expose it completely expose it or this individual for what it actually is. And for some of you, it's almost going to be a painful sort of clarity, but necessary. The Ace of Swords comes in and it's almost a necessary kind of surgery that cuts things away so that you can see a situation for how it truly is. And it's going to represent a complete shifting in perspective and a new idea, a new way of looking at something. And again, I'm getting for some of you that this is just that it may be something that's a little challenging or a little bit uncomfortable to deal with, but the Ace of Swords comes in a very swift and very profound but very necessary sort of way and illuminates something, cuts everything away so that you can see it. And ultimately, it's a very needed and a very positive and successful sort of thing. And it feels like it's going to happen quite swiftly. And the Ace of Swords is accompanied by the Eight of Wands, which is a card about communication. Wands, the element is that of air and fire. And when you think about the elements of air and fire together, it's a very dynamic combination, very action-oriented suit, which is what the suit of Wands points towards. It's a suit that's all about change, movement, action, power. The Eight of Wands is a great accompaniment to the Ace of Wands because, again, it speaks of swift, profound, impactful something. And in this case, it represents communication. The Eight of Wands is a card that represents communication about something, communication that's going to be coming very swift. And I always get the feeling of rapidity, of swiftness, and of strong impact too, because when I look at this, it looks like the wands, they've already left their destination. This is something that's already in process of happening. If it hasn't happened already, it's going to be happening fairly quickly. You can see the wands are coming down out of the sky, and it always looks to me like they're coming down very quickly, and that when they hit, it's going to make a real significant impact. Now, don't be afraid. I don't mean to necessarily present this as a negative thing. Even if the revealing of whatever comes out of this might be a little painful, particularly if it's about the truth of someone that you love or care about that has been taken from you in some way or taking advantage. That can be difficult and uncomfortable and challenging and even painful to deal with, but necessary that you know so that you can make the changes and decisions that you need to make to put yourself on a path where you no longer feel that way. So this combination of cards together, Sagittarius, the Ace of Swords, and the Eight of Wands, speaks of this illumination, this cutting away, this revealing of something happening very swiftly and profoundly, but it's also a successful sort of thing that what is coming is necessary and needed For some of you, it's going to be kind of challenging, and for others of you, it's going to be welcome. You're going to actually feel like it's a welcoming thing afterwards, because it's always better to know what you're dealing with. And it looks like it's going to be attached to communications of some kind. This could represent that perhaps you decide to, if this is representing an actual person in your life, you decide to sit down with them, or somebody gives you some information that casts things in a clearer light for you, and you're like, oh, I see it for what it is now. But since the Swords card represents a new thought, a shifting of perspectives, and the Eight of Wands is about communication, it feels like whatever is illuminated, whatever changes, has a very positive undertone to it. It's going to be very swift. The effects are going to be profound and significant. They're going to have an impact on the situation, I believe, in a very positive and successful way. But it's going to, I think there's going to be verbal communication is what I'm getting to. Perhaps this information that's brought to you results in a conversation with this individual, or with individuals involved in whatever the situation represents, that's going to, in the end, have a pretty positive outcome. And whatever is revealed is necessary. It needs to be revealed. Now, following that, we have the Page of Cups, accompanied by the Five of Wands. Now, again, this is, it's speaking a story in chronological order, because I believe 150% that the cards come out in chronological order for a certain story. For me anyway, there's always a flow to the story that it tells. It's the first step, the second step, the first chapter, the second chapter, and it usually has a cohesive flow to it. And we're following along with this situation, this person, or this project or thing that you're involved in. That looks like it's a bit of a challenge, and that there's some things perhaps that are hidden that end up coming to light, that needs to come to light. We have the Page of Cups, again, that suit of our emotions and how we relate to other people. The Page of Cups pages can represent actual young people or children in your life. And for some of you, and again, this was also a connection to the Aries reading, for some of you, this situation is going to be, or this person is going to actually be a child in your life, or a young person in your life. Perhaps it's a child of you that's an adult, perhaps that might be living with you, or taking advantage of you in some unnecessary sort of way, that you just don't want to look at, because they're your child, and you just don't want to see that, with someone you love and care about. And for others of you, this is just going to represent, again, as a message or messages of some kind, as pages also represent messengers or messages. When you think about the role of pages in the medieval world, they were the ones that were sent out as runners, typically to deliver messages between people. So depending on which Sagittarian you are, this can represent somebody actually bringing you messages and information about something, and that something would be to do with your emotions, or it could be a love as well. And for others of you, this is actually going to represent the central person in this situation, other than you being an actual young person or child. And this card falls in the upright, which points towards this being a positive sort of card. And I think that the result of this communication, this new shift in mindset, is going to bring with it kind of a new beginning there's something about it that makes you feel more hopeful. I think that because of the information you get, the revealing, the illumination of something, it results in some kind of communication, as sitting down and talking with either the person that's involved around, or the group of people, if it's a job or a project where there's a group of people involved, and that the result of it is actually feels very hopeful and very positive, and makes you feel more hopeful, more in an emotionally positive way. It's uplifting. And even though, and it's almost like the beginning of something, the youthful, exuberant, hopeful beginning of something, because it is a page. It's not a knight or a queen or a king. It's a page, so it represents more of a younger, a start to it, a beginner sort of beginning feeling to it. So it looks like this communication results in perhaps things being laid out in the open, people's intentions and feelings being more understood, and it just feels like kind of an easier flow. And it's accompanied by the Five of Wands in reverse, which is a good card to have in reverse, because I think in the upright, and it's that dynamic suit of wands, In the upright, this can point towards needing to have, I'm sorry, this card did not come in the reverse. I held it up in the reverse, which is why I read it that way, but it actually came laid out in the upright position. So the Five of Wands can point towards, it can point towards kind of petty squabblings and unnecessary bickering and just kind of infighting, nothing really terribly negative or terribly harmful. As you can see, the men in this circle are sparring. It's not actual fighting. Nobody's out for blood or looking to kill anybody or anything like that. So it's a less serious thing than say if they were fighting with real swords or something. But it can point towards just a lot of internal conflict, petty squabblings, nobody winning, nobody losing, just constantly going around and around and around. But I feel like for you, Sagittarius, that it actually has a more lighthearted feeling to it, that it's more about having fun, relaxing, playing, not taking things quite so seriously. And paired with the Page of Cups, it kind of points towards that rather than petty squabblings and disputes. Because it's not just reading one definition of the card, it's really depending on where it falls and the placement of the cards around it that can kind of somewhat alter or deepen our understanding of it and how it flows in the story. So I feel like whatever this communication, this meeting, this sit down, this talk you have, it feels like it's going to result in people's feelings. What I'm getting is being people feeling like they're heard more, their feelings and concerns were aired, which always makes us feel a little more validated and vindicated, and that it's maybe perhaps going to represent an ending to feeling like just things are going around and around with no resolution. But I think it's just going to result in the lifting of this heaviness, this lifting, this desire of looking back towards a time where things were lighter because things are so heavy now. I think it represents a real that whatever this communication is, it was actually necessary, the whole thing, so that you can have kind of a fresh new beginning, feel more hopeful, be more emotionally lifted up, take a breather, take a rest, realize that it's not quite so serious, have a little more fun about it. And it just feels like it has an easier flow because of what's being revealed and because of this communication, this talk that you have. It just feels like it brings a more hopeful, uplifted feeling, a lessening of internal conflict, and just the ability to relate to each other a little bit better and not take things quite so seriously somehow. For some of you, this is how it's going to resonate. And I think at the end of the month, it's going to be actually really nice. It's going to mean the end of the slowing down and cessation of this feeling of feeling depleted and taken advantage of, and perhaps being ignorant of that, because at the end of February 2016, we have the Eight of Swords reversed, accompanied by the Chariot in the upright position. Great combination to have. In the upright position, we have the Eight of Swords would represent feeling chained or held hostage by a way of thinking. And again, that Six of Cups combination with the Seven of Swords, for those of you for whom it resonates, I think the larger portion of you, that you've been unwilling to look at something, unwilling to see a person or a situation as taking advantage of you because you have some kind of emotional connection to them, whether they're a loved one, a child, a spouse, a partner, a best friend, a job you really love, something, and you just don't want to see it as something that's, taking from you and leaving you feeling depleted. In the upright position, the Eight of Swords has a very strong theme of um, not really looking at something, not wanting to see the truth and reality of something that's in front of your face. Because if you look at this woman who's all chained up at the wrist, those chains aren't actually connected to anything. With a simple twist of her wrist, those chains would fall off and she could take the blindfold off herself and realize that she's actually the one in control. She's not trapped and held hostage. She's not at the mercy of anyone or anything. But the fact that she's allowing that to happen speaks of an unwillingness or inability to be able to see something that's right in front of you, and this feeling of being chained and held hostage and kind of helpless in this situation. However, this card came in the reverse position, which means the ending of that, the ending of feeling like you're blind, you're held hostage, that you don't have any control over the situation. So, however this resonates for you, this thing that's revealed to you, this information that you get, this new perspective, the ensuing communication or meeting or sit down conversation you have, which results in a more lighthearted feeling, a feeling more hopeful and uplifted. It's going to represent the end of this feeling like you're held hostage and the end of a sense of being blind to something that's right in front of your face because the truth has been revealed and people have laid their cards out and exchanged ideas and informations and feelings and have been validated. And that's going to represent the end of all this negativity and stress and burden that you've been feeling very swiftly and very powerfully because you have the most wonderful card, the major arcana card of the Chariot in the upright position, which represents the swift and powerful success of something. The Chariot also represents the bringing together of a variety of forces and bringing them together in perfect unison and perfect harmony in a way that propels something forward with great speed and great motion and great success, which is what the Chariot represents. You not only have to control the Chariot, but the wheels on the Chariot and the sphinxes or the horses to make all of these things work together so that it propels something forward, it moves something forward. And again, I think for the larger portion of you, this is going to represent, a relationship with somebody, regardless of what the nature of that relationship is. Uh, this information that's going to be revealed, something that needs to come to light, is going to come to light. It's going to result in a meeting, a conversation, communication, exchanges, which is going to be very positive, hopeful, and uplifting, and it's going to lead to feeling validated and just a free, more easier and carefree sort of spirit, which is what you're all about, Sagittarius. It's going to represent the ending of feeling blindfolded and chained and held hostage to this thing, and it's going to happen pretty swiftly, and it's going to be pretty profound and very positive. And that's further bolstered by your crowning card, your umbrella card, which is the Six of Swords. Again, swords. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 swords, and that's almost half of this reading is swords. So it's all about this mental energy, and there's going to be a great lifting of that at or towards the end of the month. The Six of Swords is all about sailing from troubled, turbulent waters into more peaceful and serene times. Again, for some of you, this can mean an actual trip because it can signify travel as well, which also takes you out of this situation too. Or perhaps you decide to take a trip after this is all done, be it a short one or a long one, just to get that kind of reprieve from it and kind of clear your head. Um, but it represents a moving from troubled waters and just turbulent, kind of churned up feelings and times and thoughts into more peaceful and serene cards. It's a card of leaving, kind of a quiet, almost somber, serene card, but there's a strong theme of healing and restoration in this card as well. And it's a lovely card to get as a crowning card. It looks like there's going to be some challenges, but that you're going to come through it just fine. So don't worry about it, Sagittarius. I think that it's going to end up very positive, and it looks like what challenges and discomfort there is necessary, but it doesn't look like it's going to last very long because this does, again, represent the last half of February, so it's only a few weeks to go, and again, looks like it's going to be have quite the positive results. So Sagittarius, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope it has resonated with you or at least brought you a little bit of wisdom and insight and food for thought on the path to come. And if you're interested in a personal reading, you can click on the About button to get some information on that. And you can also email me at maggie1mcguire@gmail.com. I am doing readings full time now, so I can almost certainly get you in, at least for the time being, within 24 to 48 hours. And I look forward to seeing you next month for the March 2016 general readings. And until then, I wish you joy, peace, blessings, and a happy life. Thanks for watching, Sagittarius, and I'll see you later.